now for our feature presentation.
May I introduce to you Lancashire.
Put your hands together for the one and only.
Just a couple of northern monkeys. Hurry, cockers.
Three claps and we're in. Hooray, cockers and hot podders, welcome back to the latest episode of the Lancashire Hot Pod. That was 10 seconds. You couldn't do 10 seconds without the cough.
Without the tickly cough or not.
Anyway, without getting into cough gate too much, Gav, I missed you. I missed you on the last episode.
I know, I'm feeling a bit left out.
Well, did you get what's it called? FOMO? FOMO? Hashtag FOMO.
What's that?
Fear of missing out.
Yeah, I suppose I did.
It's what all the kids are saying. Got FOMO. Got FOMO.
Just not down in the lingo, am I?
No, not at all. But anyway, you're back. Welcome back.
So,
Exactly, and we've got YouTube rolling, so no more 360 video.
this is where we are up to date with the kids.
Exactly, memory card overheating. It was a pretty poor show. So listen, we've got a good episode on this episode because it's one that we've been trying to get in for a little while. So without further ado, shall we introduce? And I'm gonna make this claim. Our number one fan.
Our number one fan. That's normally me or someone else's podcast. This is great.
So listen, Tom, how are you doing? You all right?
So bad, lads. Thanks for having me.
Hey, listen, our absolute pleasure. So just to give some context to the reason why we're making that bold claim of you being our number one fan, you just want to just throw it out there as to why we are giving you this title.
Well, basically, it was when I was told I was coming. Well, I should probably say that when I was told I was coming.
When you follow
When I was
When it was ordered to come to
when
the
I drew the short straw at the distillery. So yeah, when I learned I was coming on there, I thought I better do my research, make sure I'm not coming in without any no idea what's going on. So I do a lot of driving in the job, up and down the country. Really, we're all over the place. And one thing I do when I'm in the van on my own, I listen to podcasts. So I listen to.
Unfortunately, he's had to endure every single one of us.
I think 25 episodes.
So this is
Somebody is keeping count.
this is 25.
This is number 25.
This is number 25. You've made history. You've helped us get to a quarter of a century.
Quarter of a century, yeah. So yeah, the 24 that I listened to were very good.
He's been well rehearsed. Well rehearsed. Well, listen, we're not here to talk about, although it is great to talk about someone who's listened to all of our episodes. But Tom, do you want to sort of do a proper intro? You're not just our number one fan, are you?
No, I do other things as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. Go for it, mate. Take the floor.
Keeping up with the epidemic that is gin.
Yeah. So my name's Tom. I'm from Brindle Distillery over in Brindle near Chorley, where we make Cuckoo Gin. So we're a company that started about 2.5 years ago now. I came on board probably, I think it was April, May last year. Just basically I needed a change from what I was doing, so I was in the hospitality industry. Have been on and off for sort of 10 years really. I got my first job as a 14-year-old.
Is that hotels, restaurants?
Hotels, yeah. So I got a hotel job, pot washing, 14, then moved on to the bar at 18, and then had a bit of a break away from hospitality, and then some reason I always went back to it. It's just something I always kind of complained about all the time, and then always went back to it. Always
It's like a drug.
Exactly, man. Yeah,
like a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, they love me, I hate it.
Well, you can sympathise, Gav, can't you? Because you've done your fair share in hospitality as well.
Yeah. There's nothing better than working with public, but
yeah, I think it's one of those I work with the public more than ever now, and it's probably be careful what I say about the public.
Yes,
really.
the public wants to be listening.
Yeah, of course. But it's one of those one day you'll have the best experience ever with someone, and then, especially in the job I'm in with Cuckoo, it's amazing. Everyone loves gin, everyone loves drinking, so it's not a difficult sell really, and people are generally quite interested in what you've got to say. However, when you work in a busy bar in a city centre like I was doing, not everyone's interested in what you've got to say.
So it drives your Cuckoo.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, it does. And it was kind of getting to a point where I was not didn't hate the general public, but it was becoming more difficult, I guess, to kind of work them long hours and
Keep your sanity.
keep your sanity, and
Working with drunk people.
it's hard work, mate.
It is hard
It's
work.
hard work. I mean, we've all been the designated driver before, and it's the reason I don't be the designated driver because it's torture. It's hard work, isn't it? So to be the designated bartender and it's your job and you have to deal with that, it's quite difficult. So
now you've sort of like moved one back on the supply chain. So rather than actually just like serving people drinks directly, you're now fueling the bars themselves that feed people directly.
exactly, yeah. So
Nice.
my role in Cuckoo would be we all do a bit of everything. So my title, I suppose, is brand development manager. So that would be obviously like going across the country doing different events, going into bars, restaurants, trying to get a listing. But then it also comes down to we do delivering now and again. So you'll be a delivery driver one day, and then you work in the distillery. You work behind the bar in the distillery. You'll be on the phones trying to get orders and stuff like that. So there's all different things we do with it. But yeah, it was. I needed to kind of make that jump from being the middleman between the consumer and the supplier, I guess. So as a bartender, that's kind of what you are. You're pushing other people's products and you're making sure your venue's doing well. And don't get me wrong, I loved it. I did it for most of my early 20s and I had a great time when I was living over in Manchester and stuff. It's a great city.
It's a lifestyle as well.
It's a lifestyle, man. It's not a job, and it's what a lot of people. I think a lot of people say to you, like, Gav, you might have had this as well, where I always got told, like, when are you going to get a proper job? It's like, it is a proper job.
Dude.
Like, if you want to come and try and do it, like,
Nowadays, man.
Yeah.
I was front of house at restaurants a year ago, and it was I just basically, once everything else was sorted, I'd just be going around talking to customers, and it was just a good laugh.
Yeah, that's it, man. Yeah.
You were a good host. I mean, Smokies. So no, the Smokies in Chorley, but
Yeah.
the one in Darwin sadly closed down. But you were a good host. You made people feel welcome. You moved around. You made sure that you took money at the end, which is always a good thing. Good portions. Always made sure that we had the right sauces.
Well, my mind weren't always on the money, so we're always worrying towards the end of the night. Have I done that? Have I done what I'm supposed to do? Is it right? Turning up on that, but it was a good laugh. So yeah, you enjoyed it more than anything. You know?
I think, well, you touched on it being a lifestyle. It is, man. That's where you spend most of your time. That's
get to know your customers.
Yeah, you get to know your customers. The people you work with kind of become your family almost because you spend more time with them than anyone else. Anyone else, and it does become a lifestyle. But it was kind of getting to the point for me, and it was lucky really. When I met Mark, so Mark was doing a festival. Mark, I should mention who Mark is really. Just saying, some bloke called Mark. Mark Long and Gerard Singleton and his wife Kath Singleton. So Mark married their daughter Liz Singleton.
Yep.
So Mark started Cuckoo Gin with Gerard and Kath and the family. He got the ball rolling sort of June 2016. So that's when Mark and Liz got married. After which they obviously gone away and done the honeymoon and all this stuff, and they've come back to the country, and Gerard had this idea about a farm he has up in Brindle. So it's where his father Peter still lives. He's been there for sort of 82 years now, so it's his home. He doesn't know any different. There's one or two ways the farm was going to go, and I think it's fairly common knowledge that independent farming is not
as easy
as it used to be, and you're not making a lot of money from independent farming anymore. Which is a big shame, especially from where we are in the up north.
Yeah, it's like it's tradition, isn't it? But it's just harder and harder.
And there's not a lot of money being made, and the supermarkets are kind of made sure of that really. So although you'll see when you go into Tesco's or Asda or the big supermarkets, whatever, you'll see sort of a chap holding his spuds up, being like, "This is Steve's spuds from Herefordshire or whatever, and we're selling them for him." It's like, it's Tesco making the money and they're just using that as their kind of marketing campaign, you know what I mean? So there is a route you can go down where you can supply supermarkets with dairy, potatoes, various different things if you're an independent farmer. However, STEMI were making the big cut of it. So what Jared wanted to do, the farm's been various things over the years. It's been a cattle farm, it's been a pig farm, loads and loads of things really.
Just trying everything, right?
Yeah, everything really to make money, I guess, and to make a living. But Jared had a lamb work business, which he still runs now with Calf. He's still got a lot of big jobs on, and he's done very well from that. And I think his idea was to sell the farm. So he's got a good, I'm not too good at this acres thing, I don't really know what that means, to be honest. I'm sure they've told me before, but he's got a lot of land at this farm in Brindle, and he had an old cow shed which he built. And he thought, we could sell it quite easily. It's a good bit of land, it's a nice area. There's a big house at the top where Peter lives. However, then you're going to have to find somewhere else for Peter. Peter's going nowhere. So Peter's like,
he's in it for life.
yeah, Peter's like, this is my home, I'm not going anywhere. Like, balls to your sail, like, I'm staying here. So they thought, let's diversify. So the diversification of farms have been made, they've been encouraged a little bit more by a fund that's available from the EU, which I know is a massively touchy subject at the moment.
We don't mention the B word.
No, well, thank God, 'cause it's boring, isn't it?
That's the B word.
But the EU have got a fund available it's an agricultural fund for farmers and rural businesses, basically. So if you've got an idea and you want to change up your farm and what you're doing on there, you can go to this organisation, pitch your idea, tell them what you want to do, and you get a couple of conditions to meet and stuff, and they'll match your funding. So like I said, Jared's been successful with his lamb work business, but not enough capital to start a gin business. So he's gone to the organisation, they've liked what he was talking about, and they've got this funding, which then enabled Mark and Jared to start making this old cow shed look more like a distillery and not full of cows. And to also buy a mini piece of kit in, so a mini still, which is what you make gin on. And they started making gin of a weekend, so a bottle a week in Jared's garage up at his other farm in Withnell, where he
Is
lives.
it just playing around with ingredients?
Playing around with ingredients, yeah. So different botanicals, different methods. It's hard to know where to start really. So it's like you've basically got this piece of kit. I think they bought it from Amazon for about 200 quid, and then they were starting to get the ball rolling, and then they were like, well, the feedback was pretty terrible for sort of 8 months when they were making this gin. So the family members were like, well, this is terrible, what you're doing. Like,
This is not
I mean,
good at all.
we'll drink it,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
doesn't taste nice.
it's one of those when you really
We'll have
want
to
to
get
get
rid of it somehow.
yeah. So they kind of make the bottles, and then they'd be like, sorry, but it's terrible. Like, you need to put your ideas up. So what they started doing when they went doing the day job. So Mark comes from a big corporate background. He worked for a company who used to buy and sell meats, cheeses, olives, etc. into supermarkets. Which again, pretty good contact to have when you're starting your own kind of consumable product. But he'd learnt the industry through that, and he wanted, instead of selling other people's products, he wanted his own consumable product, and he kind of saw the opportunity then with Jared to make use of the farm, and that's what they did. And when they were kind of making the gin and getting feedback from people, it was then that they had to start studying and start really learning the craft of distilling.
Yeah.
So anyone can make gin. I mean, we'll talk about it more, I'm sure, but there's gins popping up every day.
There's a gin revolution,
There's
happening,
a
isn't
massive-
it? It's like the most popular drink on the bar at the moment.
My
It's-
mother-in-law is absolutely mad about it, and I think you were better half likes a gin a little bit.
That is very true. I mean, I'm rather partial to a gin. I mean, I have to say, I've not currently got a Cuckoo Gin in the house, but I've got a nice, in fact, no, I can mention the name. It's irrelevant. I've got a bottle of gin in the house.
Yeah.
I got it for my birthday.
You can tell me off air so I don't fall out with you.
Yeah, fair enough. It is Cuckoo, actually. It's definitely. But so obviously then refining the craft and improving the recipe.
Yeah.
And did they get one all of a sudden that they were happy with? That must have come over time.
Yeah, so I mean, the process probably took them among everything else as well. So they were renovating the distillery. obviously from what it was, they were trying to come up with a brand, they were trying to find a designer, they were trying to find more money. And then in the meantime, they were trying to learn how to make gin. Now, it probably took them a good 7 or 8 months to nail down a recipe for the first gin. And once they kind of worked out the balance of botanicals, so there's lots of YouTube watched. So obviously we all learn.
Good old YouTube.
That's the way forward.
Yeah.
Good old YouTube. Fix a washing machine, YouTube. Change your light, YouTube.
Everything's
Making gin,
YouTube. So everything's interactive now. So it's all, you can see and watch people making gin. If you were learning a few years ago, you'd have to read a book or go see it for yourself.
Can you buy home brew kits now as well? For
Exactly,
for gin,
yeah.
beer, like pretty much anything. Yeah.
You can buy home brew kits and you can make gin.
Let's not advertise that. You're better off leaving it to the special.
Oh no, absolutely. I'm not suggesting
Yeah.
we could make a special Lancashire hot pod gin.
I was going to suggest actually. I mean, it's
a future collaboration.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe we could do
we'll chat to Mark.
Yeah, that's it. Well, we could do a Lancashire hot pod.
Oh, we'd have to think about the recipe actually.
Yeah.
It'd be a spice. Anyway, my mind's going now.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of ideas to. I mean, like we were saying, there's gins popping up all the time. So, what the vision was, and probably when I came into it as well, it was really important to me. And like we discussed before, like I would never dig anyone out because it's not. I wouldn't do that, but it's like
name and shame.
Oh, I couldn't do it now. But it's like we were touching on, and with we'll call it a gin revolution or a gin boom or whatever you want to call it.
Like gin boom.
Yeah, it's like boom. There was all this gin all of a sudden, but the problem we have, and the problem that Jared and Mark would have faced when they started the company is. There's a lot of gin.
There is a lot.
This is the problem. It's a very saturated market, and the thing we struggle with really, and the reason we got the funding as well. A big part of it was we're not just here to make gin and that's it. Do you know what I mean? We don't just want to make bottles of gin, sell them. 5 years time, the brand's that big, and then it's like, oh, we need to do this, do that. The vision of the company is to obviously have a good product, which I will give you a bottle before I leave, and you can try it for yourselves. But
you can do a live tasting.
You can do a live tasting as well. Obviously have a good product and a good brand which we could sell and be successful. But the main vision for the company is local employment. So that's one of the conditions of the funding. You have to bring employment to the local area. And the other one, and probably the main thing that we're working towards for the future, is tourism. So,
interesting.
But aside from that, it's quite an organic thing as well, isn't it? It's a lot of the things that you use, you're grown or sourced locally as well, aren't they? Yeah.
So again, that was the way of diversifying the farm, was to make use of the land. Jared and his family have had the farm for about 100 years, so the Singletons have had it for about 100 years.
His dad's been in it for 82 of them.
82 of them, his dad's been there, yeah, exactly. So quite sentimental to them, and they've had businesses on there before, and it was something really important to Jared to go back to his farming roots in some way. So it was either we could, again with the brand, when we were talking about branding, it was like Farmer's Gin, or I mean, there's so many names you could call it.
And then you've got to check, but like you said, there's that many gins out there, you've got to check that nobody else is using it.
Exactly.
Yeah, how do you differentiate yourself
and
from
then,
the market?
Yeah, exactly. So when they started to look at branding, and when they started looking at how they were going to make the gin long term and in more bulk, one of them was to separate ourselves from the gin market a little bit. So the way a lot of gins are made, and this is a kind of, I won't say it's a problem we have, but it's something we kind of hope in a few years will kind of drop off from the industry. So you two could go to a big company, big distilling company, say I want 3,000 litres of X gin, so just a normal gin, I've got this brand, I've got this label, I'm going to stick that on a bottle and I'm going to sell it. So that's what we're up against. So many of the gins, and I'm talking, there's more than probably 1,000 available in England now. And
What do you mean different labels?
different brands, yeah.
And some of that gin, the same gin, just different labels.
I don't want to say that, but
Tell us, we'll say.
So just hypothetically speaking, if like some supermarkets that perhaps aren't the big six, but some of the Scandinavian brands potentially.
yeah, and the German ones,
Yes, because they do, I think it's Hortus.
Yeah.
Which is quite cheap. Looks very similar, different labels.
decent gin, man.
Okay.
To be fair, like,
Okay. But are we talking that sort of ilk of gin, where it's pretty much going to be the same gin that you get on that
So-
label versus a Tesco own brand or a Morrison's own brand or...
So the own branded ones you get from Tesco and
You know, the big
just
supermarkets.
and anything else that's
Yeah.
there are others available, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the ones you get from the big supermarkets are they're just your standard gins. They'll be made by a big company.
Yep.
Tesco or Asda, whatever.
Morrison, Sainsbury's.
Proper advertising
Yeah,
Tesco tonight.
Well,
I'd say where he does his shopping.
Tesco and Sainsbury's the same thing now, isn't it?
Well, this is the thing. They're owned by bigger companies like Walmart and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Asda's
aren't
Walmart.
they? Yeah. So it's what the big supermarkets will do. They will buy gin in bulk from a big distilling company, and they'll put a label on it and sell it, and that's makes it cheaper and whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad product or it's a bad quality product. It just means it's cheaper because it's in bulk. What we found is especially when we kind of spoke to other distillers at events and stuff, is it's really easy to be a hobbyist in this industry. So you could kind of compare it, I guess, to a rich man or woman buying a football club.
So it becomes like a passion. So.
Yeah, so it's like, well, I've already made billions of pounds in oil, say, but I'm going to buy a football club because I need a hobby.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a big comparison to make because obviously
It's
on
like
it.
Benki's with love, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And
So
Russian oil billionaires.
yeah, and stuff like that, and it's like, and people like Abu Dhabi and Qatar and Dubai and stuff have made so much money, they don't know really what to do with it. Do you know what I mean? And that's what we found. There's a lot of people who've kind of come into it for the wrong reasons, really. Seen an opportunity that gin's really big, and thrown money at it, and then it kind of stops distilleries like us and many others in the country from kind of making any progress.
Yeah,
Just makes it harder.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't go into an example, a big pub chain, and throw X amount of bottles at them and loads of point of sale and loads of free stock, because we're a small independent company and we don't work like that. We're a premium upsell, we know that. That's how we work.
Yeah.
However, another company can go in and say, right, I'll give you 200 free bottles, all this point of sale, this coverage, that coverage, there you go. And if you're running a business, 9 times out of 10, you're going to take the freebies, aren't you?
Yeah,
So that's kind of what we're working against to prove to people, and we can prove it because obviously you can come to the distillery at any time you want.
Yeah.
We do tours, we do workshops, we have a bar. You can nip in during the day if you want, just come have a chat with us, it's fine. What we're really trying to do is we're in it for the long run. We want to bring employment. So we've got 5 full-time staff now within the 2 years, me included. Mark, who's our boss, our manager and master distiller, so he comes up with all the recipes. Master distiller, yeah.
I like that.
It's not a bad title, is it?
Yeah, I like that.
And then we've got Hayley, who lives just down the road in Brindle, actually. She's coming as our kind of head of sales. She comes from a wine background, so she's come with a lot of experience, which we needed. And then we've got 2 lads in the distillery, Rob and Tom, who they kind of do a bit of everything. So they make gin. Rob makes the alcohol that we make from the barley, which grows on the farm. So he's a brewer from Horton. It was a chance meeting with Rob, actually. we bought some vats off him for making beer. So to make alcohol, you first need to make beer, and that's how we make our
any alcohol?
spirit. Well, the way we do it, yeah. So we make ours from barley.
Well, this is one of my questions because, like we said, there's this big, what is it, a gin boom.
Gin boom.
So there's a big gin boom.
You got to say it like that as well. Gin boom.
There's a gin epidemic.
Yeah.
And I'll bet 90% of the people that are drinking it and buying it and loving it and like having all these bottles stacked up, you know, as a hobby or whatever, you know, like I like this, I like that, you know, like you do with whiskey and that.
Yeah.
I bet you 90% of them people don't even have a clue what gin is.
Yeah.
And I'm one of them people, I don't have a clue what gin is. So I would be interested in what it is you do on the farm that you put into the gin and what even is gin.
Yeah, so gin, I mean, you go on, gin's been enjoyed in this country for a long time. So it does, it originally it was a product from the Netherlands. So it was William of Orange. So hundreds of years ago. So William of Orange would give, it was, the Dutch call it Geneva. And you can still get that in Holland now. So you get like Ball's Geneva, which is really quite a pungent gin. But the Dutch would call it was Geneva, and bear in mind back then, so we're talking, it's like the Middle Ages, like really long time ago. They didn't have the regulations we have now, where it's got
the stringent health and safety procedures.
It was strong stuff, man. And yeah, basically, yeah. So they would be making it in like tin pots and baths and stuff like that. But William of Orange would give his soldiers gin before they went into battle, and that's where the term Dutch courage comes from.
Right.
So
look at that.
Did not know that.
yeah,
It's a school day on the hot pod.
so the Dutch courage term comes from William of Orange giving his soldiers
Pistol
Geneva.
soldiers, basically.
Yeah. So if you a couple of swigs of that, you'll fight anyone. So
It's like a Friday night, you know,
Yeah.
just like the
that's
Dutch
it.
boys.
Yeah, exactly. So it just goes. It derives from that really, and then obviously we touched on before as well about Mother's Ruin. So
Housewives ruin,
yeah. So it'd be there was you just touched on an epidemic. Then there was an epidemic a long time ago. There's a famous drawing called Gin Lane of it. Shows a woman like dangling her baby over the Thames, and there's like people losing their minds and all sorts going on in this photo. And basically it meant that people were making gin in their houses. So the term bathtub gin.
Oh, is it
that time.
right?
Exactly, yeah.
Bathtub gin, yeah.
So they
Don't
won't
buy them.
don't need them. But that's how people would be making it. They'd be making it in the bathtubs and drinking it, and because it was so strong and pungent, and God knows how they were making it, but it was an epidemic. People dying from this stuff, and the city of London was on. I mean, it still is, isn't it? Really, you could claim it still is. Really, it's still kind of. It's a bit of a mad place, isn't it? But maybe it's just the mentality from then. But
They're all still
a bit, yeah. But yeah, it's it kind of comes from like the history of gin is kind of strongly connected to that. And then what the government did back then was regulate it. So that's just why you got your big companies like Gordon's and Bombay, Tanqueray, Beefeater. These big companies, because they were the only ones who could afford to make and bottle gin. You needed a 3,000 litre still legally to make gin. The common man didn't have that.
Yeah, of course.
So, and that's kind of stopped the epidemic then. And
so that was on purpose. That was law that was brought in to stop the epidemic.
It was a regulation that they brought in, so to basically keep people alive, I think.
So all these gins have come from names, and they've all got sayings and reasons. I'm hoping that Cuckoo Gin isn't called Cuckoo because it
makes you mad.
Cuckoo.
I mean, it's probably been.
He's just smiling. Going, I knew that bloody question was going to come up. No.
We should have covered that before the podcast.
Yeah, I think it's a question we get asked a lot, and I always save it kind of till last to tell people why it's called Cuckoo. I want people to guess and like have a drink of it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But that's the one thing we always get, and it's particularly in the south for some reason. I'm not digging the South out, but like it's always a joke that you'll come to the stand and be like, some bloke will be like, oh, hey, it's gonna make me cuckoo, is it? And all this. I'm like, yeah, probably.
That's what
yeah,
it does.
that's what it does.
Not
Yeah,
gone, right?
and it's like, I know it's funny and stuff, but it's like when you've heard it for
Yeah.
the 50th time in the same day, like, I'll just tell you why it's called Cuckoo. But yeah, it's called Cuckoo. So where we're from, so where the company's based in Brindle, the local people are historically known as cuckoos. So I think you're Darreners, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
You're Boltonian.
you're Boltonian.
I'm a Boltonian.
They're outside of this one.
Hey, we're all from Lancashire.
Boltonian, and then like I'm Sabden, so I've got Sabbers, Sabdonian.
Sabdonian.
Treacle miners is one they call us quite a lot.
Really?
Yeah. Do you remember that TV programme? Sabden Treacle miners? No.
The word, the name rings a bell, but I don't remember the...
It's probably only popular in Sabden. But they're really big in Sabden, the Treacle miners.
What's the population of Sabden again?
Yeah, it's like 2,000 people there. But yeah, so if you're from Brindle, you were known as a cuckoo. So it was when they were deciding what to call the brand, like I touched on before, agricultural is what we do. So there was all sorts of names dotted about. But then if you called it, I'm just going to think of a really rubbish name like Tractor Gin or something like that, which is atrocious. Don't anyone ever call a gin that. But Tractor Gin, so I mean you kind of...
definitely tell that was one of the names.
I know. And if you do, he's going to make money off it. You've already patented it.
Yeah, it's copyrighted. But you kind of pigeonhole yourself then into a certain market. It's people who are farmers and people who love tractors. Do you know what I mean?
Hey, drink this while I make my tractor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not like it's not something that we wanted to go with. And then geographical's another one. So obviously we're called Brindle Distillery. That's where we are. But Brindle Gin was considered, but no one's heard of Brindle. Do you know what I mean? I bet you lads struggled to know where it was even before I came. So it's like...
Well, funnily enough, I used to have a friend, Ollie Pimlet, who used to live in Brindle. He was at school, so
he's a cuckoo.
He's a cuckoo, yes. Yeah. And,
did he match up to the name?
He did actually, yeah. We got I've not seen him for a while. Ollie, if you're listening, hello mate.
There's a gin up the road now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we geographical wouldn't really work for us. Lancashire gin, I think it's been done by someone now, quite badly, might I add. But if you're calling your gin Lancashire gin, it's great. Like, we're proud of being from the county. Like, we shout about it a lot. But I'm not having some bloke in Huddersfield's going to be like, I really fancy a Lancashire gin.
That's a very good point, actually.
Yeah, with the Lancashire, what should divide?
Especially if they're from the Real Lancashire Association. So we've had friends of Real Lancashire on the podcast in the past.
Yeah.
You know, and quite rightly, you know, honour the boundaries. So if you were to give them some gin from outside the Lancashire boundary, I don't think it'd go down too well.
I suppose you could have a North gin, another symbol of like half red rose, half white rose.
He's off.
Yeah.
I'll tell you want to get signed up for your marketing team.
Trying to marry the two together, like, yeah. I mean, you could, and someone will do that. I guarantee someone will do that.
Well, listen, so we settled on the name Cuckoo Gin.
Yes.
And we understand, so from Brindle you're a cuckoo. But yours does stand out. You know, looking on the website, the designs, the bottles, the ingredients, which we'll dive back into, because, you know, I know obviously some of the component parts and botanicals. But you bought a couple of bottles to have a look, haven't you? So for anyone watching on YouTube who perhaps isn't familiar with Cuckoo, do you want to get out your wares? Do you want to show them to camera?
Steady on,
give us well, we're friends now.
So, I'll show the first bottle first.
Lovely, so just
see
hold it to the, just hold it, the camera's on that side. So yeah, there we go.
You see that alright?
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, so that's the signature gin. So that's the one that I told you about. It probably took about 7 months in planning.
Slaving over it.
Slaving away.
And that's the one that they were saying, listen, you need to do something with that. And
Yeah.
they did.
And they did, yeah. So, thankfully, yeah. So they, I think the problem they were having at first was they were putting too much in it. So it's difficult with botanical. So it's like cooking. So too much of one thing kind of makes it taste like that.
Yeah,
So
That makes sense. Yeah.
if you put in a load
Put
of
too much salt in it, you know.
yeah, loads of
So salty.
loads of like
Let's have a look. Chuck it over.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's all right.
It's wrecking the
Wreck the
joint.
place. We're all drunk on cookies.
yeah. So the label was changed this year actually. So it's much more bolder now.
All right. So you use it from water from your
From the farm,
from
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So another one of our unique selling points is we have our own spring on the farm, completely chlorine free as well. Goes through about 5 filter processes before it goes to the still, and that's how we make our gin. So, funnily enough, most of gin is water. So
it makes sense.
Haha, your favourite word.
yeah.
I'll just go with
It's a placebo effect.
Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of important to us. So as a product, cheers. As a product, it was important to have that provenance.
Yeah.
So provenance was really important. So we can kind of prove to people when they come to the distillery that we use our own barley. So we grow barley. We're quite big. Like we're growing rapidly now. We have to buy barley in. We're not ashamed to say it. It's
locally sourced.
locally, so of course, man. It's Lancashire barley.
Love it.
Well, like you said, the company, it's organic, and it's if you've got any issues with it, anybody's got any issues with it, it's a full-on open book. So
Yeah.
if you want to go down, everybody's totally welcome. So
I think the thing, like honesty is the best policy for us, and we welcome people to come in, and we love showing people what we do.
and I think people love that.
Yeah.
That side of things as well.
I think these days, like
It's good to know.
the provenance side of things, I think, like obviously, you're obviously proud for being from Lancashire, doing a podcast dedicated to it. So
Yeah.
we're the same. We're really proud of where we're from, and we want to kind of use things from the county to make our product. Anything we can't grow grapefruit and orange in Brindle.
No, not really the climate for it.
It's not widely grown in Chorley, I'm afraid. So we have to obviously outsource things, but I think regardless of what you have to outsource, I don't care if a gin company is buying all their ingredients from Timbuktu, anywhere, it doesn't matter. But then they're getting this ingredients and they're putting it in their own still, in their own building, and they're making gin and they're buying alcohol in. I have no issue with that whatsoever. I think crack on, that's a proper way of making gin. It's when you're not honest about the process, so you can.
You're moving into things
Yeah.
like ethics.
Yeah, man.
You know,
So it's like
sustainability.
sustainability sourcing.
Being truthful.
Yeah.
You know, it's like your
And-
marketing actually does what it says it does, rather
Exactly.
than bullshit.
And
What
Raz-
you're saying is you're proud because you're taking things out locally and then you're putting things back. You're putting back in. Obviously, we had employment and things
Yeah.
like that.
So that's the main thing for us
Yeah.
too. The employment and the tourism side of things are what will stand the test of time. Gin doesn't look like it's going anywhere, in all honesty. It's as popular as ever. There's new gins popping up all the time. Every show we do, we're gaining new fans and new people drinking gin. It's fantastic. It's great for us. But when all is said and done, it'll be the kind of employment and tourism side of things what we're remembered for, I think. Which is what we want, really. I mean, the gin world is a very competitive world, and Mark will tell you as well. You're up against it, man. Like you really got to work hard to get your name out there. There's so much going on in the gin world that you need a separate entity. You need a base. You need to offer other things, experiences, etc. You can't just be having just this bottle of gin and that's all you do. Like you've got to change things up.
So I was going to
Keep
ask.
it interesting.
Yeah.
No. You offered a keep change, which is linked to that, which is sort of have you brought any other bottles as well to have a look at?
Yeah.
Well, we'll do that. So, obviously, gin is the primary drink at the moment. Have you got plans to diversify into other alcohols, or is it just sort of gin? Gin is the big plan.
So Mark's probably going to shout at me because I forgot.
Well, hey, listen, there are other gin companies that have moved into things like spiced rum or even a bourbon, I think.
Yeah,
I'm not
so
gonna
we.
mention names, but I'm genuinely
Will you be
intrigued.
making a bourbon?
No, maybe one day.
Maybe that's a hot.
Oh, the hot pot bourbon.
Yeah, so Mark's probably going to listen to this now and think, "Oh, you're an idiot, mate." But yeah,
I'm sure he will.
we have dived into other things. We've actually made a rum recently, which if you can get the website up, I'm sure it'd be great.
This point, check this out.
Yeah,
We'll bring
exactly.
it up on the way on the vid.
So yeah, we've dived into rum. So it was again to keep it interesting, to show that we were quite versatile and we can do different things. So the rum got released just last week actually. But the reason we called it Brindle Distillery as well is because we're not just Cuckoo Gin. We make Cuckoo Gin obviously, now we make rum.
Yeah.
Our long term goal is whiskey. To become the
Now we're talking.
So-
we do like a whiskey.
yeah, so we're all
Not that much.
all at the distillery, we're big fans of the whiskey.
Lovely.
No,
we are,
so-
just to be on the same page, we are talking single malts.
We're proper whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
None of that bourbon crap.
no.
I like bourbon as well.
I-
I make myself look cool.
I love bourbon.
Single malts all the way. Purist, mate. Purist.
Yeah. Traditionalists.
We're
But
on the Highland Park at the weekend.
oh yeah, it's good stuff,
Oh,
man.
I
Yeah,
do
it is
like
good
it
stuff.
like that.
But yeah, so that's our long term. But obviously, whiskey's a few years in the making. So and
Well,
we
10
have to.
probably 10 years is
Yeah.
gonna be the decent.
And we have to learn how to make whiskey. So there you go.
But I'm loving the long term
Yeah.
sort of plan. If that listen, we're going to make single malts. We know it's got to be distilled for
Yeah, X
you know,
amount of
long
years.
time,
Yeah. But for now, obviously our main thing is the gin, and we've always got different ideas. We're always sort of thinking, oh, let's do this, let's do that. I think you can have too many. We had 3, so it was my first full year this year at the events and stuff. So I'll say I showed you
let's have a
the
look. We've seen the signature.
signature, and then we've got second gin that we made is the spiced. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
And then summer last year we made the sunshine gin.
And that's got a lot of sunshine in it.
Loads, mate. Yeah.
Go on, chuck 'em over. Let's have a closer look.
So that's the sunshine.
While he's looking at that,
That's the sunshine.
because it's quite a personal venture for all you guys, you kind of name everything. So who's Maggie?
Maggie, yeah. So Maggie is our still. So we have a 500 litre copper pot still, made in Germany, Hamburg to be exact. A company called Coffee, very bespoke. They only make a couple of stills a year, and it's quite traditional for gin distilleries to nickname their stills. And Maggie is named after a family member. So it was Jared's great auntie. She was called Margaret. Maggie for short was her nickname.
Yeah.
And Maggie was 104 years of age when she died, God bless her. And Maggie was a big fan of gin. So you're talking a proper gin drinker. So
But that goes to show though, as long as you're doing it in moderation and balance, it's actually good for you.
that's what we say.
Yeah.
Like,
It's the future.
Kept
it's the future. Yeah. So Maggie, the idea behind calling the still Maggie was now Maggie makes our gin. So it's a nice little story for another family member. The names obviously for the gin. So obviously we touched on Cuckoo, named after the people of Brindle. It goes back to our farming roots, but then offers a quirky name. Our designers, Graham and Nina Walker, so they were starting off their own kind of design agency. It's called Grey. So if anyone needs any design work doing, I'd strongly recommend you check them out. They're absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, we'll include any links in the in the bio with the podcast.
They're amazing. So Graham kind of came up with some ideas. The main one being was the story of the cuckoo. So the reason why people from Brindle are called cuckoos, it's an old farmer's tale where they would wait for the first call of the cuckoo. It meant spring had arrived, they could harvest, make money, etc. And the farmers came up with this idea to keep the cuckoo in the village. So they built a big wall around it, and as we all know, cuckoos can fly. So the cuckoo flew away, and the farmers' wives called the farmers cuckoo because it was a silly idea. So ever since then, anyone from Brindle has been called a cuckoo. So it's when Graham, he told Mark and Jared the story, and Jared was like, Jared's a cuckoo. So he was like, why did I not think of that? I said, I am a cuckoo. They went with the cuckoo story, and the name's behind the gin. So the signature is named after because it's our signature gin. It's the first one we made, and a little story behind that bottle as well. So you'll notice it's tinted blue. Yeah. This is the sun. So the gold label is the sun, and then the drawing at the bottom, which is made, which was done by a lady called Dorothy, who's from Brindle. So she's a cuckoo. She drew this, and this is all the botanicals we grow on the farm. So it's the blue sky, the sun, and then the growing of the botanicals.
Very nice.
So it's a little story behind the bottle as well.
Like it was a story behind everything. Everything relates to something.
Everything goes into something else, yeah.
And
So
what is a botanical? Because that was like, you hear it drafted around. Is it just simple as a herb? Or
yeah, it's a herb
essentially
or
a herb.
an ingredient, a plant.
Right,
Yeah.
Okay. So something natural, grown from the earth.
Exactly.
It's used to help flavour. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're a botanist, you're an expert in botanicals or ingredients. But yeah, botanicals, they're just the makeup of your gin. So it's quite a good selling point. So people might use wacky botanicals. I mean, there's all sorts dotted about these days, isn't there? You see when you go to the bars like bubblegum gin and stuff like that. And
well, look at the so which was the is it the sunshine one with the honey and raspberry?
Raspberry and honey, the sunshine. Yeah.
So how do you combine honey and raspberry then? Who's like your master taster and master taster that goes with your master distiller?
Us, really, to be honest. Everyone just gets involved in that. It's one of the...
Everyone just gets smashed all day.
It's one of the
stories up about the business.
It's one of the perks of the job, really. You do get to try a lot of these new ideas that we're doing. But the raspberry and honey one came about... So it's particularly in the north of England as well. We've done events down south in London. There's not really a big demand for flavoured gins, but in the north, there's a huge demand for flavoured gins at the moment. So I mentioned bubblegum, sweet violet, rhubarb.
I've seen a lot of rhubarb ones.
Rhubarb and ginger and stuff like that.
Parma violet gin.
Yeah. So these are gins that. I wouldn't really call them gins, in all honesty. They'll be, a lot of them would be liqueurs, but they're marketed as gin liqueurs, so obviously taking advantage of how big gin is, which is fine. There's a market for it, but just don't call it gin. It's not really gin. So the raspberry and honey came about because we were doing events and we had the bar open at the distillery and stuff, and we were serving the signature and the spice, and then we get people saying, oh, do you do a rhubarb, do you do a strawberry, do you do a blackberry or whatever? And we were like, no, this is the only two we do. We're trying to keep it kind of traditional, but we were thinking we're going to get left behind here from a lot of the other companies. So we decided to make a flavoured gin that was sugar-free. So we wanted to prove that you could distill a flavoured gin with raspberries and honey and have it completely free of syrups and essences and colours and stuff like that. So we didn't put any colourings in there, which is why you get, if you walk into a bar and there's a bright pink bottle behind the bar, that is not a natural colour. You can't make that colour naturally. It's a syrup or a colouring or an essence. And we wanted to, that isn't gin. Like, your gin shouldn't taste like bubblegum. It's just not gin. You can call it bubblegum gin all you want. It's not. It's bubblegum liqueur, really. So we wanted to make the sunshine. So it's a red bottle. Kind of an illusion, really, I guess. So on a back bar, you would look at it and go, "That's a pink gin."
With a light behind it.
With a light behind it. It does go very, very slightly pink when you put tonic in it, but we're talking really small amount. Really faint, yeah. And that's just from the raspberries, from the oils from the raspberries. But what we did, so we made a base gin of elderflower, vanilla, lemon, orange, loads of cardamom in there, loads of juniper. So juniper is what makes gin.
It's like a staple ingredient for gin, isn't it? Yeah.
If you don't have juniper in it, it's not gin. So it's quite juniper heavy, but because we use fresh raspberries and the honey we use is from our own beehives, actually. We have some beehives on the farm.
Don't do.
Bubblegum gin is not one thing we don't do. So we collaborated with a company called the Bee Centre, which are based over at Salisbury Hall.
We've been talking to them about doing a podcast as well.
Yeah, get them in, yeah.
Definitely want to get them in, yeah.
Simon and Kath, yeah, they're great people and they know what they're talking about, and they're doing a lot for the conservation of bees as well. We've been friends with them since the start anyway, but they brought some hives to the distillery and they kind of look after them for us. So obviously they're the experts. We don't really want to stop messing with bees. So they look after the bees and extract the honey for us. Once we have the honey, we'll take the base gin that we've made, put it into a big sort of tun, and we will make the honey into a syrup, so just add hot water to it and boil it up. Because if you distill with the sticky honey, and if you put the honey into the solution afterwards, it's too coarse.
So when it gets cold, it solidifies.
It solidifies, and then it's just a mess.
Residue, yeah.
It's a mess, and the flavour doesn't come out as much either. And then we put some freeze-dry raspberries in the solution as well. Keep them in there for 3 days. After which it's been macerated, compounded, and that's where the flavours come from. So we filter it and bottle it from there. But that was the flavoured gin market is just so big that we couldn't not make one.
Yeah, you're not part of the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of thing.
You've got to keep up. But
that's a challenge though as well, isn't it? It's like, you know, if you just created a gin and that was it was going to stay the same. You know, it's about variety and challenge, keeping up with your competitors, and ultimately improving your product.
So is there there's other sugar-free gins out there, is there?
Oh, there's plenty, mate. Yeah.
That are actually gins, or
yeah. You can. It's the ones that are full of sugar are the. Show me a Palmer Violet. You can't. It's not a natural product.
It's not grow out the ground, do they?
It's a sweet. Show me unicorn tears.
Really, right now?
On demand. Like that.
Well, yeah, the sugar-free things. Obviously, that's another massive thing at the minute.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's one thing we notice about the market is help. People want to be healthy, but they also want to drink. And that's something that it's really difficult to do.
It's either one or the other.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But if you can make it as healthy as possible, as natural as possible, it's much more of a selling point.
Feel better not being smashed on a Friday night.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna get
or just have a drink on an evening. You know, because I know that with all the change in the pub industry, with pubs closing right, left, and centre, and we joke about the fancy wine bars, but you can go to your offie and buy, a £20 bottle of gin. That'll last you a week. Gav's case a day. 2 weeks. Although actually we were talking about before, you've actually only drunk gin.
I've only drunk
twice.
Yeah.
So we need to educate Gav in the ways of the gin.
I'm being educated now.
That's very true, actually. That's very true. But it is a culture of drinking at home, I think, as well. And when you know you've got quality produce, it tastes really good. You can put some fruit in to sort of convince yourself that you get one of your 5 a day as well. Happy days.
Happy days.
Happy days.
And it's kind of, it's a bit sad really, and I know we talked before about the Brig and Barrel and
Graham.
yeah, our Graham and over in where's he based?
Bamber
Bridge, innit?
Yeah, Brig and Barrel.
I get all them mixed up, Bamber Bridge and Leyland and all around there. It's just one big place for me. Like. But yeah, and like I was saying, I'm your number one fan. I remember listening to the podcast with Graham on it, and the downfall of the pub industry and how micro bars and wine bars and gin bars are popping up. And he made a very good point, and it was interesting about the breweries and how they've kind of, maybe they've not meant to, but they kind of destroyed the pub industry.
Ripped the heart out of it.
And that's why you see these independents coming up now, and I think it's brilliant. I think it's great how you can. A micro pub to me is, I go to a micro brewery or a gin bar. If I want to sit down, have a drink, and talk to my mate or whatever, like you go to a boozer now, it's when you're going out.
Yeah.
It's like a pre-drink place, isn't it? You don't go to like a.
These little micro pubs
Yeah.
have gone back in time kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's like a
community of people, yeah, and it's like that's really
it's
good
nice,
for us.
relaxed, and
Yeah, and they're the kind of places we target
you don't
because
really
it's
find riffraff in there, and
exactly, yeah, and there's not the kind of places we target are them kind of places. We won't suit being in a Wetherspoons on the back bar. We would sit there and want to buy it. Whereas in a micro pub or a gin bar like a Chin Chin in Darwin, these are the kind of places where we do well in because they're an independent business, we're independent, and we're in it for the right reasons. Like you go to Chin Chin in Darwin, you know you're in for a really nice experience.
yeah, well, that's where I went in. That's where I first drunk gin, and I walked in, never done it before. I didn't want to have a night out, so I was starting a new job the next day, and I said to the lady behind the counter, I said, look, I've never drunk gin before. What do you suggest? And she actually thought about it. She looked at the bottle. She could see her mind were properly ticking. She wasn't just going to go, all right, no, you want to try that.
Yeah,
And she actually thought about it. Yeah, she thought about it. And she went out and she made me some, and I was like, that is really nice.
Must have been a Cuckoo.
Must have been, yeah, must have been.
I'm fairly sure it was.
Yeah, I think it was.
Because they stock all the Cuckoo gins, don't they?
Yeah.
You've got a good relationship there. I think you said you've done a couple of events there as
Yeah,
well.
we've done a couple of gin nights at Chin Chin. I did one last year. It was one of my first ones I did actually. So I'd never done public speaking prior to this job. And to be honest, if you'd have asked me 2 years ago, would I be up in front of people talking and even just doing stuff like this, I'd have been like, no, I don't. That's not me, like, no.
Quality, mate, well done.
Yeah,
It's a good thing to do.
Kind of been like quite reserved, like, oh no, I don't like all that stuff. But now I'm doing it, it's like it's nice to see people's reaction about the company, which is
The other side of it, like you said, you've worked in bars and things like that.
Yeah.
You've been front of house or whatever. You've been like a people's person. If you can do that,
yeah.
then doing things like this
I kind of looked at it in a way, if I can deal with sort of ravenous people on a boxing night at the arena in Manchester and running and being the manager of a pub close by and having to deal with that kind of riffraff, then I can
The
do
crowds at
pretty
Chin
much
Chin, no
anything.
worries.
Chin Chin is like puppies compared, like, do you know what I mean? So
When you're saying public speaking, Tommy, are you talking about the gins? Are you explaining to people the best way to drink them? Different recipe or sort of different what? Because I know there's a big thing with gin and what tonic, and that's one of the things when I went down to Chin Chin myself. They were like, they made recommendations on what tonic was good. And I think they used Fever Tree, which I have to say I'm a convert.
Honestly, going to offering mother-in-law a drink in pub, it's an absolute nightmare. I've just got to give her a card and say, right, just go and buy yourself a drink. I haven't got a frigging clue what you're talking about.
It's like another language, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I need this gin with that, and I need that gin with that. I need that's got to be that tonic, and I'm like,
got to be with that garnish, that fruit.
Yeah.
So it was
science to it.
So it's, yeah, I mean, when I'm doing the gin nights, and if anyone's listening and they want a gin night, please get in touch.
Hopefully people are listening.
Yeah. Yeah, said it's quite ambiguous, isn't it? If anyone is listening. Yeah, so the gin nights are really good. So you tend to get people who are genuinely interested and they want to know, firstly, about your company and your gin, but basically what we talked about today, like the history of it,
And it's a great story. It's
yeah.
an awesome story. I love it.
Our story is second to none.
It's not just a story. There's like stories within the story. And
Exactly. It's all kind of never ending, really. But
never ending story.
Like Inception.
That's not bad, that, mate.
You like
Actually.
that?
Yeah.
You like that?
It's all right.
I
That.
have that one for a future public speaking.
I will be. That's copyrighted straight away. Yeah. But yeah, when I learnt the story, so when I met Mark for the first time, I was opening a restaurant in Manchester for a company I worked for, and it was across from the cathedral. So I went over to it's like a gin festival thing, and I met Mark and Jared, Kath, and Liz, and Jared's other two children, Will and Alice, who are involved in the company as well. I met them and they told me this story. I remember it just stuck with me straight away, and I was like, that's just mental. Like how you can have that family and this idea, and then this has come about, and then that bottle looks like that, and the gin tastes like that. And I was like, how does that happen? And now that I've learnt how it happened, and now I tell the story, almost sort of feels like I'd never really done anything else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You felt you
Yeah.
needed to be part of that.
Yeah, honestly, mate, I've never really I've always enjoyed my job, like as a bartender and stuff. I've had loads of jobs, to be honest, but bartending was one that I actually enjoyed. But when I learnt the story, and then when I sort of thought maybe I could do something with them, it never really left me after that. I was opening this restaurant, I was like, I have no interest in opening this restaurant anymore. So, yeah, it was a good job Mark did take me on, because I completely lost interest in my other job. So it was great that he did that. So, yeah.
Excellent. There's another story as well, and I know we talked about it offline, but there's a recent addition to the gin family,
Yes,
which has a bit of a story that it's obviously affects a lot of people, but there is a positive side to it, and also you've done some great work for charity. So do you want to just touch upon that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll get the bottle.
Yeah, please. Let's have a look.
So this is our newest gin. So Cuckoo Solace Gin.
Sounds like a title of James Bond film.
I know it is.
Honestly, that's the blue bottle and not a blue gin.
Yes, we don't do that blue stuff. No.
Blueberry liqueur. It's a beautiful bottle. Again, is it the same design as a?
Yeah. So just a different colour, obviously.
Sure, I'll put the film is on over there, isn't it? Still.
Yeah, it's on there.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. So obviously you've seen all 4 of our bottles.
Yeah.
They're done by a company over in Burnley, actually. A company called Seaway Services. So again, the bottles are done within
locally. Yeah.
the county.
The back to no beginnings.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of the message behind it, really.
Yeah.
So to new beginnings.
To new beginnings.
What's the context there?
Solace is like comfort. Yeah. So it stems from earlier in the year. So just after the new year, actually, our master distiller Mark, and obviously Jared and Cass' daughter, she got the news that she had cervical cancer, which obviously is a terrible thing to hear and to have to deal with, and they just had sort of 6 months previous, they had their first child, Olive. So they obviously started the family, and they had obviously had plans then to have a big family, and as you do, of course, when you start having children.
And when you come from a farming background,
yeah, exactly. you don't necessarily stop, like. But yeah, so she got this terrible news, and it hit the family really hard, and everyone at the distillery, like we're a big family there anyway, and it's not like we're employee employer. It's never been like that. We spend a lot of time with each other, and we share stories, and we're
throw ideas about.
Exactly, yeah. We're just a big, very
extended family, yeah.
Very, very dysfunctional extended family. But yeah, when we got the news, it was a big shock. Liz was 29 at the time, same as I am, and sort of get that age thing in there.
Yeah, nice one. There we go.
Yeah.
With age comes wisdom and rugged good looks.
I'll not say anything.
This is our midlife crisis. Couldn't afford it like that.
Yeah.
Moving swiftly on.
Yeah, moving swiftly on. So we obviously the news was dealt, and Mark and Liz and the family obviously had to deal with it. She had a couple of operations, and 3 operations in total, and now luckily and thank God, if there is a God, we thank him, or her, thank you.
We're not assuming gender.
No, of course not. She's better now. She's obviously
Had the all clear.
all clear and in remission, and continuing her life. And when we got the news, I mean, how do you deal with that?
Devastating. Of course it is.
I don't know. Like, touch wood, been fairly free of tragedy throughout my life. You know what I mean? In terms of family and stuff, obviously everyone has their own things going on, but in terms of news like that, I'm not related to Liz, but it kind of felt like it were my sister almost. You know what I mean? It was like, wow, like how can that happen to someone so like as lovely as a person she is, and the family and stuff.
It just hits home, doesn't it?
Yeah, we did it at home, yeah, and it was like, wow.
And it's younger as well, because you don't know. I know it affects people of all ages, but I don't know. There's like a stigma attached. You're older, 29.
Yeah, you kind of. I mean, I still feel it now. I feel invincible, man. Like it's like you just don't expect anything like that to happen, and when it did, and obviously went through what they had to go through, and then they obviously had to learn that they couldn't have any more children, which was it was part of the operation was that she wouldn't be able to have children anymore, which is you've got to deal with the one thing that you've been diagnosed with terrible disease, and then deal with the fact that you can't have any more children. It's like, wow, like I had no idea how to cope with that. Yeah, amazing, like how you could cope with that, and what we wanted to do, and what we kind of put our minds together to do was to do something that would first of all raise awareness for the cervical screenings. So in the end, it was a routine cervical screening that saved Lizzie's life. That's how they discovered the cancer. At the moment in the UK, there's an all-time law for women going and getting their checked.
It's what there was a high-profile one. Was it Jade Goody?
Jade Goody, that's right. Yeah.
As well. One of my good friends, Amy, was diagnosed as well, and thankfully she's recovered. Yeah. But it affects a lot of women. And
they're all about bringing a home kit out, aren't they? Now, so
yeah. It's a quick killer as well, so you can discover you have it, and then before you know it, it's kind of got you. Yeah. I think Diane Oxbury, the weather girl from Northwest Tonight, there's a charity for her now as well, but she
that just came out to blue, didn't it?
Fighting fit, and then all of a sudden diagnosed, and then unfortunately
they used to call it something, didn't they? So I think they're changing the name. So is it like a scrape or something like that?
A smear
test. That's it. Sorry. But I think there was a scrape involved. So a smear test, the connotation and the understanding of what that involves. I don't think many women particularly wanted to go through that process.
Yeah,
so.
And I think that's a big reasoning behind the lack of people attending it, because
it just seemed like an all-round
uncomfortable thing to do, and like it's something that you just couldn't imagine doing. But the reason for the gin and the reason for why we talk about it so openly now is because it's really important. It's so important. Like there's prevention there, and if you can prevent it and come out the other side fighting fit, like we have to fight that. I mean, we really have to shout about that. And the reason for making the gin was because let's do something we're good at and make some money from for a charity for it. So it was like, let's make a new gin, and we were always said as well that we were going to stick to 3 gins, and because we had the signature, we had a spiced, which is obviously a bit of a touch up on the signature, and then the sunshine was fruity. That's 3 categories that
tick the box.
Tick most of the boxes if you're a gin drinker, but we couldn't not make this gin. So the Solace came about. Mike, he played around with it for a while. I think it kind of kept his mind occupied, getting a new recipe together. And I have to admit, and obviously people probably think I'm biased, but it's one of the finest gins I've ever tasted. And I've tasted a lot of gin in my time.
It's something he's been madly passionate about though as well. Isn't
Yeah.
it?
It means a lot to him, yeah.
Yeah, it means a hell of a lot to him, and he wanted it to be perfect, and I think he's nailed on done it, to be honest. But yeah, the ingredients behind it was sort of what they look for in cooking. So the Mediterranean style, like olives, rosemary, black pepper, grapefruit, lemon. So that kind of nice, fresh but savoury. Yeah. So once they got the ingredients kind of sorted out, it was then decided that a percentage of every sale of the gin would go towards Joe's Trust. So Joe's Trust.
No, it's just turned off. It just decides to buzz when I turn it off as well.
So Joe's Trust. So the swing tag on the gin is.
Hold it up to the camera so people can see it. There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Joe's Trust are kind of the leading charity who are fighting against cervical cancer in the country, and we collaborated with them to host a charity night on the 29th of September, and we raised £24,000
Wow, fantastic.
for
Absolutely massive.
What an amazing achievement.
and it was, honestly, we did I had to do a big speech before it, and do an auction as well with one of the regulars, a woman called Mandy who comes in. She had like a gavel and stuff like to do the auction. So, yeah, proper job, yeah.
Judge Judy style.
Yeah. But we had to do the auction, and we were really grateful for local businesses and some friends and local football clubs as well for donating some auction prizes, and people spent well. Special mention to like places like Northcote Manor and Blackburn Rovers, because me and Mark are lifelong fans of Blackburn Rovers, so it was good of them to get involved and give us some good prizes. And yeah, everyone who helped basically raise that money, it's just kind of, it was a line in the sand. It was, right, we've done this, let's crack on.
Which the ball says, new beginnings.
New beginnings, and that's Liz will tell you in her own words. If anyone can get the opportunity to go on the website, there's a link to Liz's story. So she's done a blog, basically, documenting how she coped with the news and how she. I'm pretty sure it's on the website.
So obviously, if you'll be listening to the podcast and you want to go and find out more about what something that Tom's been talking about, or just go and check out the website and go and buy some bloody fine gin.
Yeah, that'd be good.
It's brindledistillery.co.uk.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, Holmes Farm, Lancashire, and there you can see the Cuckoo Gin, the multiple awards that Cuckoo have won. So you've won quite a few awards, haven't you?
We've done well on the awards scene, yeah. So awards are important. Kind of probably don't mean anything to sort of a consumer level, really. It's good to talk about them when you're doing gin evenings and.
Still achievements.
When you're trying to sell a bottle and stuff.
Isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. But it means a lot in kind of the trade
in the game.
In the game, man. Yeah. In the trade and the retail world, it means a lot to buyers. So obviously, the more gold you get, the better. But we like to showcase everything we've won. A special one we won was two of the ones that are most important to me personally would be the gold medal for the signature at the San Francisco Spirit Awards. So that kind of opens up the market in America for gins.
Is it big in America?
I mean, there's Hendrix, Gordon's Bombay,
right? Okay.
Tanqueray.
Yeah, and obviously it's a huge market, so you get into the right niche or the right area. I'm sure.
Yeah, there's no flavoured gin market out there at all. which I probably shouldn't have said.
There's not really.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge flavoured gin.
But the Americans like, because I've got family over there as well. They've been there 8 years. They've lived in Minnesota, Central States, and they're now in Seattle. So obviously much more liberal on the west side.
Yeah.
West Coast, should I say?
West side.
But the Americans like good quality British English stuff.
Yeah.
You know, my experience. You know, especially if it's quite niche and quite. What's the word I'm looking for? Not bizarre, not weird, not strange, but things with a good story to it.
They like
character.
They like the tradition.
Yeah,
they've not got a lot of history, have they?
That's it, man. Yeah.
So they love. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So they that's where you get a lot of. It's funny when I've met people from America when I've been doing the events and stuff, and they love our history and our traditions and the values and stuff like that we have in this country. But they're always what I've learned personally as well. They're always fascinated to learn about how different the north is from the south. Because yeah, there definitely is, and it's like a lot of I spoke to a lot of Americans and like Canadians. Canadians kind of know what we're about, I think, a little bit more. But if you're like from the middle of nowhere in America and like say you came to Blackburn or Darwin, you'd be like, where's the Queen? Sort of thing, like, like everyone knows the Queen here. They genuinely think we all know the Queen. It's like, no, it's completely different. Do you know what I mean?
It's like, yeah, no, I've been there. You know Derek in London.
Yeah. It's like, no, actually.
Funnily enough, no, I don't.
I'm from Blackburn. You know what I mean?
Okay, so the awards are obviously important.
Yeah.
So plans to go to do it again, because obviously once you've got your products and they've won awards, can you resubmit them?
Yeah, you can resubmit. And this is the thing with awards. It can be a weird experience because, like you're saying, we got gold, silver, bronze. Yeah. So how can we get a gold somewhere and get a bronze somewhere else? It's an opinion, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that's what awards are. It's a panel. It's an opinion.
Yeah, it's subjective. Totally subjective.
Totally subjective. Yeah. Like some bloke on the panel might have had a really bad day and you think, oh, man.
So if there's any Americans listening, all the bronzes come from down south and all the golds.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's where the winners come from. Yeah. But yeah, we've entered the World Gin Awards again. We've entered the London Spirits competition this year just because we're making a bit of movement down there now, so it'd be nice to get some recognition. And we'll probably enter San Francisco again next year as well.
And do you get to go there?
Fortunately, well, not at the moment, no. That's kind of because I've travelled.
Not to hand deliver the gins to the judges.
I'd love to do that, yeah. Because I've done like we've done so much in Britain now, so I've been everywhere. So we kind of, this is obviously we're only 2.5 years in still, and there's people down the road who haven't heard of us. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of you got to crack on.
Yeah, got to work hard at it.
But we'd love to. We want to go worldwide. We want to. The brand was made to sell and to appeal to other countries. We've got a few export opportunities now. We have bottles being sold in Singapore and Indonesia now. So you can go I'm not saying you can go, but if you ever find yourself in Indonesia or Singapore, Cuckoo's readily available there.
Fantastic.
In terms of Europe, France, Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, Austria, a couple of others that are around. And then the biggest one that we got recently was Australia. So there's a big company out there called Dan Murphy's, which is it's like a liquor store, but it's how they buy the booze over there. It's a big chain, and we recently got into that.
Fantastic.
So Australia is a
world domination. It started from meagre beginnings on a farm in Chorley. To Australia. To San Francisco.
And how old's the company? 2 years?
2.5 years now,
yeah. Yeah, that's good going, that is really good going.
I think good product, good story, good
exactly,
marketing.
yeah. I think
it's not just a gin, is it? It's
the whole
it's the whole experience, yeah, exactly. I think sometimes we can a negative twist on it would be we probably look too like more established than we are.
And you are.
We're not at all. Like we've still, you know, I deliver twice a week, and Mark's still working behind the bar at the distillery. Like we're not a big company. It's we're working really hard to kind of make sure that we do things properly and employ the right people and not kind of grow too quickly. But
no, and don't come across like something you're not. I mean,
yeah.
You know, if you look at your website, yes, it looks professional and
it's a good informative website.
Exactly, it looks really good, but you still get the essence. And just chatting to you today, you know, you still get the essence of what Cuckoo's about.
Yeah, it's cool.
You know, you're not corporate. You're not sort of like just pushing out stuff on production lines.
Yeah,
and there's not that many people work there yet, but it is a passion. It's like there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears have gone into it. You won't be able to taste
Hopefully,
you won't be able to taste them.
Unicorn tears. Though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's kind of that's what we are, and I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, we always want to be this tiny little company. Like, of course not. Like, sky's the limit with what we're doing. We're really passionate about bringing this product to the world. We want to put Lancashire on the map as well.
Yeah.
It's a big thing we got told about when we got the funding as well was, and you're doing very well, lads, I must say.
Says our only fan.
No, number one fan.
Yeah, number one fan.
How do we know?
But yeah, one thing we learnt was that a lot of people get off the plane in Manchester or the ferry at Liverpool or Holyhead or wherever they get off, and they'll go straight to the Lake District or they'll go to Yorkshire, which is fine. They're beautiful places. However, we have a lot to offer here as well. We have lots of history. The people are great. We've got so much that we can offer people, and they can still go to the Lake District. It's not going anywhere.
No, it's not too far away. It's an hour and a half up the road.
Just come and see what we can do as well.
Just have a look at Lancashire as you're on your way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So there is a reason why people can come to the distillery.
Yeah.
And we talked about this experience, and if people do want to come and check out Cuckoo a little bit up close and personal, you do an experience sort of a tour, don't you? In the workshop, is that right?
Yeah, so we do the more frequent one experience we do is we have a bar called the Cuckoo's Nest,
which is also on your website.
Yeah, on the website too. That's open various times really. We do it. Sometimes we do it every Saturday of the month. Sometimes we do it 2 Saturdays of a month. Sometimes it might be a bank holiday. Again, all the dates are on the website.
Well.
Dog friendly, man. Yeah.
And it's not just gins that you're selling there either, is it? You do like real ales.
Yeah, we brew our own ales as well. So we brew a couple of house ales, and
you got local food places in as well, don't you?
Yeah.
I'm just reading the website.
It's very informative, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty good actually. It's like Japanese street food. Fine pizza.
Yeah. So we
Flying Pig. What's that?
Flying Pig pizza. Yeah.
Pizza.
And Malaysian street food by Nasi Lemak.
So you've got to get yourself down there.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
So with the bar nights, we use our own ale because
look at that, me.
We use our own ale, and then we use a couple of local suppliers, freebies over. They're not too far from here, are they? Tockholes Way, Rivington Brewery. We use Farmyard Ales, Beer Brothers at Walton Summit.
Graham mentioned them. I think
he gets some from there. They're really good.
Yeah.
So we use kind of local ale, what are they called? Breweries.
And people that do things.
They make beer. But then you can have anything you want. We've got good whiskey selection, vodka, rum. We also have our own rum now. And other gins. We're not. I mean, most people have a Cuckoo Gin because they're a Cuckoo Gin, but we offer other Lancashire gins. We obviously the guys over at Batch in Burnley. We've done quite a lot of work with them, so you can enjoy
They've been successful as well, haven't they? So there's, there must be a thing about good Lancashire gins because two brands there they've done really well.
I think Batch started a bit before us, but same kind of ethics behind what they're doing as well. It's community thing. They're really proud of where they're from.
There's a story behind it.
There's a story behind there as well. And then at the end of the day, I think as people and as a county as well, we like a drink. I don't think there's no way of sugarcoating it. We like a drink in this where we're from, and we're bloody good at it as well. We can
We do a few things well. That is one of them.
Great, good job of it.
We do. We can sup. We really can. But it's now we can enjoy our own stuff. We don't have to go anywhere else for it. We've got it all in.
Don't have to import it.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't get me wrong. Pint Moretti. I love a Pint Moretti. Brilliant. But you can get lovely real ales. We've got gin being made here. We've got rum now.
We can literally live off the land and drink off the land now.
Exactly. Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So.
Wicked. So the experience, so I'm going to be cheeky because I think we did mention this but we didn't confirm it as to whether or not we were going to be able to offer a couple of listeners the opportunity to come to the...
So I've been very generous actually.
He's delving into his bag now.
This suitcase.
The suitcase is a travelling bag.
Yeah, so I've got 4 vouchers.
Wowzers.
Have you got that many listeners?
Well, you're one of them, so we've got 3.
We'll get out
At the
of
end of the day,
that
you
one.
can go 4 times.
Yeah. So they're the tickets there.
Lovely, fantastic.
So
we will we'll put this out on Facebook and social. We'll do a little bit of a. I mean, I don't suppose you're looking for anybody to give you a name for a new gin, or perhaps any. We could link it into a competition. Put you on the spot now.
Yeah.
We could probably just give them out to anybody that shares. And
if you want to make it more fun, I mean, any suggestions will be. We won't use them, but there you go.
It's a family thing.
It's a family thing, yeah.
Well, we could do it. So if you were going to make a Cuckoo Gin, what would be your ingredients?
Yeah.
And then perhaps your master distiller could check out.
Yeah,
some
Mark
ingredients.
can see what people are thinking.
Well, we'll have a think on them. We'll have a think on
Says no unicorn tears,
no Palmer violets,
no palmer
bubble
violets, no bubble gum.
Dandelion and burdock are beans and stuff.
I wouldn't mind that, mate. To be fair, D&B gin would be quite nice. Yeah.
So
Burdock's actually a plant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that a botanical?
But
That's what I mean.
we use burdock root in our
Alright.
gin. Yeah.
So
He's just stolen that idea.
well, my mother was telling me she knows a gentleman friend. Not my dad, which is a bit weird, but she was saying that he makes his own gin. I was like, really? He makes his own gin? I was, what, you got a distillery? And he does it? No, he just buys those bottles of, he buys bottles from the supermarkets, and his favourite one is he just puts 20 blackjacks in
Blackjack gin,
and he's got blackjack gin.
Yeah.
I did that with Skittles and vodka once.
Yeah. I think we've all done that in our time, haven't we? Yeah.
I must have done something wrong. It was the worst thing I've ever drunk.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So you can create gins in many ways. However, we will leave it to the experts. So Tom, you've given us an experience this evening. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate you having me. It's good to get obviously different platforms and tell people, especially locally, what we're doing. And I invite everyone to come and check us out at the distillery, whether it's a bar night, a tour, a workshop. Workshops are brilliant. Actually, you can make your own bottle of gin, call it whatever you want, put whatever you want in it, not the ones I've mentioned, you can't put any of them in it. And then if it's really good, we keep the recipe and then we make money from it. Yeah.
Well, even if you're thinking about going, just have a look at the website, because it is a really great, it's a really well done website, and it's really interesting. It draws you in and you start clicking different bits. There's a lot of options to look at.
Yeah. There's a blog on there which I do every month as well, which kind of it keeps people up to date on where we're at and what we're doing, and what we've got coming up. So you can sign up to our newsletter and you get that every month. It's mostly just me just talking absolute wet. But
hello, Cuckoos. Forgive me for I've sinned. It's been 7 weeks since my last blog post.
So things like that, really cringy stuff. But you gotta keep it fun, like, can't you?
Forgive me for I have ginned.
That's brilliant. Well played.
You can have that one for next time.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Well, wicked. Listen, it has been fantastic. Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of time, for bringing the bottles in, for explaining the story that sits behind Cuckoo, and obviously, please pass on our thanks to Mark and Liz and the gang for the vouchers. we'll help share and promote, and we'll include the links to the blogs, to the website. If anybody wants to find out any more and connect with you on social, you are on Twitter.
Yeah, so we've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's all at Cuckoo Gin. LinkedIn if you're into that. We're on there too. Yeah.
Did you just say LinkedIn if you're into that?
Yeah, I don't like LinkedIn.
I thought it was called LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, yeah.
LinkedIn.
I don't know what it is about LinkedIn. I mean, there's a lot of it's like, Joe, you get on like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, it's all about image in it these days.
Yeah.
Like, it's all like what I've done. But some of the stories on LinkedIn are just ridiculous, and I often see them and I'm like, that just isn't true. Like, what are you saying that for? Like, it's mental. So if you like LinkedIn, we're on there as well. But
It's your bag.
I'm
Yeah.
so truthful.
it's all, we tell the truth, yeah. But I'm not on there that often.
Well, listen, thank you again for...
No, thank you for having me, I appreciate
not
it.
just coming on and telling the Cuckoo story, but for being our #1 fan, for doing your research. I hope that we've done you justice as well in
Yeah.
sort of, bringing a little bit of Cuckoo to the room.
This will be the only one I don't listen to.
You say that, but you'll get the HO and you go.
Yeah.
It'll be on one of those long journeys again. It's like, just turn it on. But the thing is, when you listen back to it, you don't think it's you.
No, yeah, but it's quite strange.
It is,
Yeah.
because we do listen to them, just obviously quality control and just check out
And
how things have gone. And
Just
obviously
interesting-
filming them is a bit new
Yeah,
for
yeah.
us, so we'll
I'm
see how
just
that works out.
interested to know what my accent sounds like when
That's the only reason I listen to it. Because
Do you know what I mean?
I want to try and get used to my own voice because it's weird.
Like yeah, it is because
You have to listen to it.
I've got such a weird voice.
But it's like another thing I talked to Mark about before I left was like the broad range of accents in this country. Where like you're from Darwin, and Darwin accent is so much different from if you're from Blackburn.
Yeah.
Or like where I'm from, like Sabden way. I probably don't really sound like I'm from that way, but
You've got
people
the
different like.
more Yorkshire touch.
It's like, alright,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that kind of thing. Like me and my mates regularly like change the songs of lyrics to make them sound like they're from Lancashire.
Did you listen to Sid Calderbank's podcast? You know, the Lancashire dialect expert.
No.
I'm going back. I think it was like our number 2nd or 3rd. Poddy. It must have been.
Yeah.
'Cause we-
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
We released it on Christmas Eve. Didn't thinking that it was going to do much. Then all of a sudden it was like 300, 400, almost 500 downloads, and it was like one of our
Most of them were me.
ones.
Yeah.
But he's a dialect expert, and he
Yeah.
spoke about Lancashire dialect, and he read, I think, the first written prose, poet or sonnet, whatever they want to call it, story,
Yeah.
and it just sounded like Gaelic or Welsh, really, really weird.
Yeah. So it's like
have a clue what he was talking about.
No,
it's
another language.
it's mad, isn't it? Like when you read up on like back in like the mill days and stuff like that, how people talk to each other. We try and emulate that, and we've got a mate called Mackie who's like, he's from Great Orwell, he's proper Lancashire lad. And we were at Glastonbury this year, and there were people around us, and but Glastonbury's a pretty weird place anyway. But then so we had 2 lads drunk singing Dancing Queen in a Lancashire accent.
Listen, on that. Okay, well listen, so Hot Podders, thank you very much for tuning in. If you've been watching on YouTube, hopefully you're digging the videos and the blending of the websites and some other images and stuff like that we'll put up, so we'll just keep working on that. Of course, you can subscribe on Podbean, on iTunes, and you can check us out on Spotify as well. You can follow us at the Lanky Hot Pod, and on Facebook, the Lancashire Hot Pod. So, Gav, I think the next mission for us is to get you drinking more gin.
Yeah, get me drinking gin, yeah.
Get you drinking gin, move away from the Fosters, the Stella, and other strong continental lagers. And we'll get you,
I'm up for that.
Make you into a gin bunny.
Yeah, gin bunny.
Well, listen, it's been lovely for you to come back, and are you happy now that we've got the gin bunny?
Gin bunny.
Gin boom. We've got
Gin beam.
we've got the filming set up now, so we can edit it. It's not live.
Yeah, so I'll, can you edit, let me know it's a bit smaller.
I'm not a miracle worker. Wicked. All right, Hot Podders. Tom, thanks once again, mate. You've been
Thank you, guys.
absolute
Nice
star,
one.
and we'll
Appreciate
catch you
it.
soon.
Nice one.
Nice one, thank you.
Now for our feature presentation.
May I introduce to you Lancashire
Put your hands together for the one and only.
Got the mic. Hurry.
couple of northern monkeys. I eat cockers.